I heard what's being said in the store.
It's a lie. I'll not have you carry it for my sake. I've been coming to see you. Not the horse. You. I'm asking, Cora. I'm asking to court you right.
You don't want the fight of it. He'll turn every soul against you. Go home, Ethan. I'm not the kind a man fights for. I'm the kind he's kind to when no one's looking. I've always known it.
The candle was tallow, and it guttered low, and by its small light, Cora Hale looked at the man across the table and told him no. "I'm not the kind a man chooses," she said. Her voice did not shake. That was the worst of it, that she said it plainly, the way a woman states the price of flour. Ethan Cade sat very still. The rope-burn scar on the back of his right hand caught the light as his fingers closed slow around nothing. Outside the window, the aspens had gone to gold, whole hillsides of it burning cold in the last of the afternoon, and neither of them looked at it. He had said a thing to her. She had answered with the truth she'd carried since she was a girl. To understand why, you have to go back 13 years. It was 1869, and Cora Hale was 13 years old, and she was cold in a way that gets into a child and stays. Her mother was 2 years in the ground by then, and her father had followed a rumor of silver into the mountains and never come back down, and so it was only Cora and her Aunt Marta in a 2-room house at the ragged edge of a town called Ledger, Colorado. Marta took in washing and mending. It was not enough. That winter came early and mean, and the wood they had laid by ran thin by December, and then it ran out. Cora remembered the particular sound of an empty wood box, a hollow knock when you reached in and found only bark and splinters. She remembered her aunt going out at first light with an axe too big for her, walking the tree line for deadfall, coming back with an armload of green wood that hissed and smoked and gave almost no heat. She remembered them sleeping in the kitchen, the two of them, under every blanket and coat they owned, close to a stove they were afraid to feed. And she remembered the morning it changed. She woke to the sound of Marta laughing, a startled, cracked sound, half laugh and half something else. Cora came to the door in her stocking feet and looked out into a blue and bitter dawn. And there, against the side of the house, was wood. Split wood. A cord of it, near enough, stacked neat and tight the way only a careful hand stacks. The pale faces of the pines still weeping sap in the cold. Someone had come in the night. Someone had split a winter's worth of wood and carried it to their door and stacked it and gone, and left no name, no note, no track that lasted past the first wind. "Who?" Cora had whispered. "Hush," Marta said. "Hush, child. Don't ask. A gift that hides its face is a gift twice given. You take it, and you say your thanks to the good Lord, and you don't go poking." They burned that wood all winter. It kept them alive. And when the next winter came, the wood came again, in the dark, from no one. And the winter after, 3 winters running, until Cora was 16 and stronger and they'd got on their feet. And then it stopped, the way a thing stops when it's no longer needed, quiet, without a word, the same way it came. Cora never learned who did it, but she built something on top of that mystery, the way children build, wrong and load-bearing. She decided that kindness was a secret thing, that the best gifts came from men who did not want to be seen giving them, that a woman like her, plain, quiet, wide through the hip and slow to laugh, was the kind you were kind to in the dark and never in the daylight. You did not marry a girl like Cora. You left her wood. Aunt Marta, who loved her, made it worse without meaning to. "You've a good heart, Cora," she would say, brushing out the girl's brown hair by the fire. "You're not a beauty, and there's no use pretending, but you're the sort a man is grateful for, not the sort he chases. You be useful, and you be good, and you'll be all right." She meant it as comfort. Cora took it as measurement, grateful for, not chosen. She was 13 when she learned it, and she was still living inside it at 26. By 1882, she was the churchwoman of Ledger, Not by title, there was no such title, but by the shape of her days. She was the one who scrubbed the chapel floor on Saturdays, and set out the hymnals and washed the linen. She was the one who sat with the dying and cooked for the grieving, and took soup to the widow Pratt, who never thanked her. She was the one they called on and did not invite. She saw it plainest at the weddings. That spring she'd knelt on the chapel floor with pins in her mouth, taking up the hem of the Osgood girl's borrowed dress, while the groom stood at the front laughing with his men, and not once in the whole hour did his eyes come near the plain woman kneeling in the aisle, who was making his bride beautiful. That was Cora's place in Ledger, on her knees, useful, invisible, pinning up the loveliness of girls the town had chosen. The men tipped their hats to her on the walk and forgot her face before they reached the gate. She did not complain. That was the thing about Cora Hale that the town missed entirely, being too busy not looking at her. She had made a kind of quiet peace with being unseen, and inside that peace she was not bitter, and she was not broken. She was only certain. Certain the way you are about a thing you learned so young, you no longer remember learning it. Now, the man across the candle. Ethan Cade had a ranch 9 miles north of Ledger, up where the grass gave out and the pines came down, and he ran it near enough alone. He was 31 that autumn, brown and spare, with big careful hands and eyes the color of creek water over stone. He did not talk. This was known about him the way the weather was known. Ethan Cade came to town for what he needed, and said what the transaction required, and no more. He paid in full and on time. He did not drink at the Prospect. He did not court, did not dance, did not sit on the church bench though he was seen, some Sundays, standing at the back near the door, as though he might bolt. The town had a story about him, because the town needed everyone to have a story. Ethan Cade was cold, they said. Ethan Cade thought himself above them. Ethan Cade had money and no manners and a face that could freeze the milk. They were wrong about all of it, but being wrong had never slowed Ledger down. Here is what was true, and what the town would have given a good deal to know, and what Cora did not know at all. When Ethan Cade was 18 years old, he had a father who drank the ranch near to ruin, and a mother worn thin as a worry stone. And in the worst winter of his young life, he did a thing he never told a living soul. He had been in town for feed, and he had seen a girl, a skinny brown-haired girl of 13, come out of the mercantile counting coins into her palm, 3 of them, and put 2 back, and buy a single tin of matches with the 3rd, and walk home in shoes that let the snow in. He'd followed at a distance, the way a boy does when a thing catches at him and he doesn't know why. He saw the house at the edge of Ledger. He saw the thin blue smoke, too thin. He saw, that evening, the ant walk the tree line with an axe. Ethan Cade went home and did not sleep, and the next night he loaded his sledge with split pine from his own woodshed. Wood he'd cut himself, wood his father would miss and rage about, and he drove it down in the dark and stacked it against the side of a stranger's house and drove away before the dawn. He didn't know why he'd done it. He told himself it was Christian, and it was. But that wasn't the whole of it. He was a boy who felt too much, and had been taught. Hard. That feeling was weakness, and being seen to feel was surrender. His father had a saying, delivered with a heavy hand, "A man who shows you his soft place has shown you where to put the knife." Ethan learned it. He learned it so well that the only way he could let himself be kind was to be kind where no one could see. In the dark, to a stranger, asking nothing. 3 winters he brought the wood. He never knocked. He never learned the girl's name. And when he judged they'd got on their feet, he stopped, and he carried the whole of it inside him, silent. For 13 years, the one good thing he'd ever done, that no one could take from him, or use against him, or make small. He did not know the girl had grown into the churchwoman of Ledger. He did not know her name was Cora Hale. Not yet. So you see what we have. A woman who believes she is only ever the recipient of kindness done in shame, and the man who taught her that lesson without either of them knowing he had. 2 people carrying the same secret from opposite ends, and neither aware they held the 2 halves of one thing. Autumn of 1882 brought them together over a horse. It was a Tuesday, cold and bright, the aspens at their full gold. and Ethan Cade rode into Ledger with a sick mare on a lead. A good bay he'd raised from a foal, gone down in the gut, breathing wrong. The only man in the county who knew horse doctoring worth a damn was old Doc Pruitt, and Doc Pruitt was 3 days gone to Denver. Ethan stood in the road outside the livery with his hand on the mare's hot neck, and he did not know what to do. And a man who does not know what to do and cannot say so out loud is a man in a particular kind of misery. It was Cora who came. She'd been carrying broth to the widow Pratt, and she saw the mare's flanks heaving, and she stopped, the way she stopped for every wounded thing, and she set down her basket in the road. "She's colicked," Cora said. Not to Ethan, to the horse, low, moving her hand along its side. "How long's she been down?" Ethan looked at her. It took him a moment to make his mouth work. "Since dawn. Walk her. Don't let her lie down and roll, or she'll twist her gut, and that's the end." Cora had a farm girl's hands and a farm girl's memory, learned from Marta, learned from years of being the one who knew useful things. Warm mash, not cold, molasses if you've got it, and walk her. Keep walking her, all night if it comes to that. She stayed. That was the part that undid something in him. Though he'd have died before he showed it. She had somewhere to be, and someone waiting on that broth, and she stayed in the cold road with a stranger's horse until the animal passed the worst of it, walking beside him in slow circles, her plain face set and calm. When at last the mare stood square and blew out a long, steadying breath, Cora straightened and pressed her hands to the small of her back. "She'll do now," she said. "Keep her walking a while yet. She'll do." Ethan Cade searched himself for words and found, as always, almost none. "What do I owe you?" he said, and reached for his coin. Something crossed Cora's face. Quick, gone before he could read it. She thought, there it is. She was a service rendered, a woman you paid. "Nothing," she said, and her voice was gentle, and it cost her. "You'd have done the same." She picked up her basket. "Good day to you." And she walked away up the road, and Ethan Cade stood holding money no one would take, watching the churchwoman of Ledger go, and felt, he could not have named it, that he had failed at something he hadn't known was a test. He came back the next Tuesday. He told himself it was to buy feed. He bought feed. He also stood a long while near the chapel where he'd been told the plain woman could be found on weekday mornings. And when she came out with her rags and her bucket, he found he had walked toward her without deciding to. "The mare," he said. "She's well." Cora looked up, surprised. "I'm glad of it. Wanted you to know." That was all. That was the whole of it. But he came the Tuesday after, and the Tuesday after that, and each time he said a little more, and each time it was like watching a man ford a cold river a step at a time. He learned she'd been raised by her aunt. He learned the aunt was ailing now, poorly all through the fall, and that Cora nursed her nights and worked her days, and did not seem to sleep at all. He learned the sound of her laugh, which was rare and low, and which she seemed embarrassed by, as though she'd been told laughter didn't suit her. He did not learn, and she did not tell, that she looked forward to Tuesdays now in a way that frightened her. She had built a whole life on not hoping. And here was a quiet man crossing a river toward her, week by week, and hope is a weed. It comes up through the smallest crack, and it is very hard to kill. The town noticed. Of course the town noticed. In a place like Ledger, nothing moved, but everyone saw it move, and the sight of Ethan Cade, cold Ethan Cade, above himself Ethan Cade, lingering by the chapel to speak with the plain Hale woman, was a thing that wanted explaining. The man who explained it was Silas Pruitt. Pruitt owned the mercantile and half the paper in the county, and considered himself the moral spine of Ledger, which is to say he was a small man, made large by other people's debts. He'd had his eye on Cora Hale for a year and more, not with any tenderness. Pruitt's wife had died and left him with 4 children and a store, and he wanted a woman who would cost him nothing and thank him for the privilege. And he had looked at Cora the way a man looks at a mule at auction and thought, that one's broke to harness. He'd as good as decided. He'd been letting her know it, in the heavy way of such men, dropping remarks about how a woman her age couldn't be too particular, about how he was a Christian man who could overlook a woman's plainness for the sake of her usefulness. And now here was Ethan Cade, moving in on what Pruitt had already claimed in his own mind. So Pruitt did what such men do. He talked. He leaned on his counter and talked to every woman who came for thread and every man who came for nails. And the talk was soft and poisoned, and it went like this. Wasn't it strange, the Cade man and the Hale woman, and her nursing that aunt alone up at the edge of town, no chaperone, no people to speak for her, and him a man who kept to himself. A body had to wonder what he kept to himself for. And her not the sort of decent man courted honest, was she? So what did that make it? Him going up there, the old woman too sick to know the day of the week? It was filth, and it was quiet, and it spread like damp. Cora felt it before she understood it. She felt it in the way the women at the well went silent when she came, in the way Mrs. Osgood took back the mending she'd promised Cora with a mumbled excuse, in the way the parson looked at her over his spectacles with a new and careful pity. She was losing the one thing she'd built. Not beauty, she'd never had that. Not love, she'd never let herself want it. She was losing her good name. The plain and hard-won respectability of the churchwoman, the only worth the town had ever granted her. Being useful, being good, being needed. It was all she had, and Silas Pruitt was taking it a whisper at a time, to punish her for a warmth she hadn't even let herself hold. She met Ethan the next Tuesday, and she meant to tell him not to come again. She'd rehearsed it. She had the words. He deserves better than to be tied to my name, she'd tell herself. But under that, deeper, was the older thing. This is what I am. This is what I was always going to be. A woman men were kind to in the dark and ashamed of in the light. The wood in the night. Now they'll say we did our sinning in the dark too. It's the same. It was always going to be the same. He was waiting by the chapel with his hat in his hands. Before she could speak, he said, I heard what's being said, in the store. Cora went still. Pruitt, Ethan said, and the name came out of him hard and flat. I know his kind. I had a father his kind. He turned the hat in his big scarred hands. It's a lie, and I'll not have you carry it for my sake. So I'll say it plain, because I don't know another way. He looked up at her, creekwater eyes gone dark and steady, and it was the bravest thing she'd ever seen a man do, because she could see what it cost him. I've been coming to see you, not the horse, you, and I'd go on coming, honest, in the daylight, before the parson and the whole of this town, if you'd have me. I'm asking, Cora, I'm asking to court you right. And there it was, the daylight. The one thing she had told herself she would never be given. A man standing in the open, in front of God and ledger, asking to be seen wanting her. She should have wept for joy. Instead, something in her, 13 years old and cold to the marrow, rose up terrified, because she did not believe it. That was the tragedy of it. She stood in the gold autumn light with the one true thing she'd never dared hope for, held out to her in a good man's scarred hands, and she could not make herself reach for it, because a girl in a two-room house had learned that this did not happen to her, and the lesson was older than her reason. You don't want this, she said. You don't want the fight of it. Pruitt owns half the county's paper. He'll turn every soul against you. And for what? For me? She shook her head. Go home, Ethan. Find yourself a girl the town'll be glad of. I'm not, and her voice caught, just once, and steadied. I'm not the kind a man fights for. I'm the kind he's kind to when no one's looking. I've always known it. It's all right. It's just how it is. And she picked up her rags and her bucket, and she left him standing there. And that was the first time she broke his heart, though it would not be the last, and though she would spend the rest of her life making it up to him. He did not chase her. He'd been taught, same as her, that you don't beg to be wanted. But he did not go home and forget, either. He drove his wagon back up the north road, and he thought the whole 9 miles, and the thing he kept coming back to was the way she'd said it. I'm the kind he's kind to when no one's looking, said flat, like a fact she'd made her peace with. Where does a woman learn a thing like that, he thought. So young, and so deep it comes out of her like her own name. And he thought about how she'd been in Ledger her whole life, and how she'd said she was raised by her aunt at the edge of town, poor, the two of them alone, and how old she'd be now, and counting back to a winter 13 years gone. Ethan Cade felt the ground move under him. the house at the ragged edge, the thin blue smoke, the aunt with the axe too big for her, the skinny brown-haired girl outside the mercantile, 3 coins in her palm, 2 put back. He'd never known her name. He knew it now. He sat his wagon in the middle of the North Road and could not, for a while, make himself drive on. 13 years. All those winters he'd carried down wood in the dark, and asked nothing, and never learned who. It had been her. The girl he'd kept from the cold had grown into the woman he'd been crossing a river toward all autumn, and neither of them had known it, and the not knowing had shaped them both. He had taught himself to give only in secret. She had taught herself she was only worth secret giving. They had built their whole 2 lives on opposite banks of the same dark water, and here it was, the same river, and he was standing in it at last. He could have driven back that night and told her, "Cora, it was me. The wood was me. See, I saw your worth when you were a child. You were never the kind a man is only kind to in the dark. You were the kind a boy risked his father's wrath for, and never asked a thing in return." He didn't, and I'll tell you why, because it is the truest thing about him. He didn't tell her, because he understood, slow, but he understood, that if he told her that way, it would be a debt. It would be another man being kind to her, and her having to be grateful. She'd take him the way she took all of it, head bowed, saying you'd have done the same, and she'd come to him out of the weight of what he'd given, and she'd never once believe he'd chosen her free. He didn't want her gratitude. He'd had 13 years of imagining a stranger's gratitude, and it had kept him warm and kept him alone. He wanted her to choose him standing up. He wanted her to know her own worth first, in the daylight, before she ever knew he'd been the one in the dark. So he kept the secret 1 winter longer. But he did not stop coming. He came the next Tuesday, and Cora would not see him. He came the Tuesday after, and she sent word through the parson's wife that Mr. Cade should not call again. And Ethan Cade, who did not beg, found another way, because a man can be kind in the daylight too if he's stubborn enough about it. He noticed things. He noticed the front step of the Hale house had rotted through, a plank sprung and gray and dangerous, the kind of thing that would pitch an old sick woman down onto the frozen ground. He came in the daylight, the broad, plain daylight, the sun high, where anyone passing on the road could see him and did, and he tore out the rotten step, and he built a new one. Raw pine, cut square, nailed true. He did it slow and he did it open, and when Cora came to the door drawn by the sound of the hammer, he touched his hat and said only, "Step was rotted. Somebody'd have broke a leg," and he gathered his tools and went. He did not do it in the dark. That was the whole message, and Cora, standing on the new pale step that smelled of fresh-cut pine, felt the message land somewhere she couldn't defend. He wanted her to see him do it. He wanted the whole road to see. There was no shame in it. There was no dark. She stood on that step a long time. But it was Aunt Marta who broke the thing open, at the very end, the way the dying sometimes reach back and set right the one thing they left crooked. Marta had been failing all autumn, and by the first hard frost she was mostly abed, her breath gone shallow and wet, the room thick with camphor and the sour warmth of sickness. Cora nursed her through the nights, wringing flannel and hot water, holding cups to the cracked lips, and she did not speak of Ethan Cade, and Marta, who missed very little even dying, watched her niece's grief-set face and understood there was a thing to be mended before she went. One night, near the end, when the frost had feathered the window and the only light was the low stove, Marta caught Cora's wrist with a hand gone to bird bones. "Sit," she said. "I've a thing to tell you, and I've kept it too long." Cora sat. "The wood," Marta said. "The winter wood. When you were a girl. You remember." "I remember. I knew who brought it." Marta's eyes, filmed and failing, found her niece's face and held it. "I always knew. Not at first, but the second winter I stayed up. I was afraid. A body leaving gifts in the dark. You don't know a saint from a wolf. So I stayed at the window, and I watched him come." Cora's heart had gone very still. "Who?" she whispered. The same word, the same one syllable, 13 years old and unanswered. "A boy," Marta said. "Cade's boy, from the North Ranch. Ethan. Couldn't have been but 18. I watched him bring the sledge down and stack that wood, careful as a woman stacks china, and I watched him look up once at this house, this window, near where I stood, and then drive off without a sound. And I never told. Her breath rattled and gave out, and she had to stop. Cora lifted the cup and held it to the cracked lips, and the old woman drank, a swallow, two, and lay back against the pillow, spent, gathering what little was left of her. I never told you, Marta went on, fainter now, because I was a foolish woman who thought a gift with a name on it was worth less than a mystery. God forgive me. I made you think kindness came from shame. It never did, child. That boy wasn't ashamed of you. That boy split his own wood in the cold and hid his face because he'd been taught to hide his heart, same as you were taught to hide from yours. Two of you, same wound. I watched it happen, and I never said it right. Cora held the cup again. Marta turned her face from it. He's the one at your door now, Marta said. So faint Cora had to bend to hear it. Isn't he? The quiet one, building your step in the daylight where all can see. A ghost of a smile touched the ruined mouth. You listen to me, Cora Hale, and this is the truest thing I'll ever say to you, and I'm ashamed it took my dying to say it. You were never the kind a man is only good to in the dark. You were the kind a boy loved before he knew your name, and kept on loving 13 years without a word of thanks. Don't you let my foolishness be the last thing you believe about yourself. Her hand tightened on Cora's wrist. All the strength she had left poured into it. Don't you dare. Cora Hale sat by her aunt's bed in the frost-lit dark, and felt 13 years come apart in her hands. The wood, every winter of it. It had been him. The boy who grew into the man, who now crossed rooms toward her, and built her steps in the sun. He had seen her, truly seen her worth, when she was a cold and skinny child, that the whole town looked past, and he had given everything and asked nothing, and hidden his face, not because she wasn't worth the daylight, but because he could not yet bear his own. It had never been shame, not his, not hers. It had been two frightened children learning the same crooked lesson at opposite ends of the same dark road, and now they were grown, and the road ran straight between them, and there was nothing on it but her fear. Aunt Marta died 3 days later, in the gray hour before dawn, at peace. Cora washed her, and dressed her, and sat with her, and did not weep until it was done, and then wept until there was nothing left. She buried her aunt on a cold, bright morning, with the last of the aspen gold gone brown on the hills. The parson came. A few of the churchwomen came, drawn by decency if not by warmth, and at the back, apart, hat in his scarred hands, stood Ethan Cade, in the daylight, before the whole of Ledger, standing for the woman no one else would stand beside. Cora saw him across the open grave, and something that had been bent in her for 13 years began, slowly, to stand up straight. It was Silas Pruitt who forced the moment, as poison always overreaches. He came to her 3 days after the burial, to the 2-room house now emptied of everything but Cora, and he did not knock so much as arrive, filling her doorway with his good coat and his heavy certainty. He had come, he said, to make her an offer, and he wanted her to understand it was a mercy. Her aunt was gone. Her name was in tatters. He did not say by whose hand. She had no people, no prospects, and a reputation the Cade business had ruined. But he, Silas Pruitt, was a Christian man of standing, and he was willing, he said the word twice, to take her into his house as his wife, to raise his children and keep his store, and in exchange, he would restore her good name by the simple fact of his choosing her. You'll not get a better offer, he said. You'll not get another one at all. A woman like you, at your age, with your face and your history, you ought to be on your knees, thanking Providence I've come. There was a time, a week before even, when Cora Hale would have bowed her head. She'd have thought, he's right, it's all I'm worth, I should be grateful. She'd have taken the harness because she'd been broke to it since she was a girl. Instead, she stood in her aunt's kitchen, on the new pine steps threshold, and she looked at Silas Pruitt, and she was not afraid. No, she said. He blinked. You didn't hear me right. I heard you. Her voice did not shake. It never did. But this time, the steadiness was a different thing entirely. Not the flat calm of a woman resigned, but the level ground of a woman who has finally found something solid to stand on. You've come to offer me my good name back, if I'll let you own me. But you're the man that took my name, Mr. Pruitt. You stood in your store, and you sold lies about me by the ounce. And now you offer to sell me back what you stole. I know what I'm worth. I didn't, for a long while. A good woman taught me wrong. God rest her. And it took her dying to set it right. But I know it now. She stepped up, onto her own threshold, so that for once she looked down at him. I was worth kindness when I was a freezing child, that nobody in this town would look at twice. I've been worth it every day since, scrubbing your chapel and burying your dead and taking soup to your sick. I don't need you to make me respectable. I was never anything but. Now take your good coat off my aunt's porch. You're standing on a step a better man built. Silas Pruitt went pale, and then red, and he said some things a Christian man ought not. And Cora Hale shut the door in his face and leaned against it and found that she was laughing. That low, embarrassed laugh. Except this time she was not embarrassed by it at all. She went to find Ethan the next morning. She rode her aunt's old mule the 9 miles north, up past where the grass gave out and the pines came down, and she found him in the yard mending harness, and he stood when he saw her and did not say a word, because he never did, and because his heart was in his throat. Cora got down off the mule. She'd rehearsed this too, the whole 9 miles, and now that she stood in his yard with the cold sun on the pines, she found she needed almost none of it. I know about the wood, she said. Ethan went very still, the way she'd seen him go still, that first day over the sick mare. Aunt Marta told me, before she died, she watched you the second winter, saw you stack it, saw you look up at the house. Cora's eyes were wet, but her voice held. 13 years, Ethan. You kept me alive and you never let me thank you and you never told a soul. And I spent all that time thinking a girl like me only got kindness from men too ashamed to show their faces. I built my whole life on that, and it was wrong. And it was you that proved it wrong, and you didn't even know you'd done it. He found his words, at last, the way he found everything. Slow and few and true. I didn't tell you, he said. When I worked it out, a month back, I worked it out, riding home. I could have told you and had it done. He turned the harness in his hands. I didn't. Because I didn't want you coming to me over a debt. I didn't want your thanks. I've had 13 years of imagining a stranger's thanks. And it's cold, Cora. It's a cold thing to be loved for what you gave. I wanted. And here, the river was very wide, and he forded it anyway. I wanted you to know your own worth first, standing up, before you ever knew it was me. So it'd be you choosing, not paying me back. And Cora Hale understood then that she had been given, twice in her life, the rarest thing there is, to be seen truly, and asked nothing for it. Once in the dark, by a frightened boy, and once in the daylight, by the man he'd become, who loved her enough to keep his own good deed a secret, so that she could learn to stand before she ever learned to be grateful. Then I'm choosing, she said, standing up, in the daylight. I'm choosing you, Ethan Cade, and it's got nothing to do with the wood, and everything to do with a man who built me a step where the whole town could see. She took a breath. If you'll still have me, I know I turned you away. I was afraid. I'd been afraid so long I called it knowing better. He crossed the yard to her. He did not sweep her up. That wasn't him, and it wasn't them. He stood close, and he took her hand, the plain, strong hand that had walked a sick horse in a cold road, and he pressed it between both of his, the rope-burned scar rough against her skin, and he said, I've had you since you were 13 years old, and I didn't know your name. I'm not likely to stop now. They were married in the Ledger Chapel that Cora had scrubbed on 100 Saturdays, and if some in the town came only to gawk, they came, and they saw. They saw the quiet rancher stand at the front where all could look at him and take the plain churchwoman's hand, and never once let his eyes leave her face. They saw a man choose a woman in the broad and open daylight, gladly, before God and Ledger and everyone, and a strange thing happened. the way it does when one true thing shames 100 small lies. The town's story about both of them began, quietly, to change. Ethan Cade wasn't cold, folks decided. Cora Hale? Well, maybe they'd never looked at her right. Silas Pruitt sold his store within the year and moved to Denver, and no one much missed the paper he'd held over them. They lived a long life up the North Road, the two of them, and every autumn the aspens burned gold on the hills around their house, and every winter Ethan Cade split more wood than any two people could ever need, and stacked it careful against the side of the house, the pale faces of the pine weeping sap in the cold. And he did it in the daylight now, always in the daylight, and Cora would watch him from the window and know, every single time, exactly whose hands had brought it. I've told you they found each other over a sick horse in a cold road, but that's not the truth of it, and I'd not send you off with the wrong end of a true thing. They didn't find each other that autumn. They'd found each other 13 years before, a cold girl and a frightened boy, and spent all that time forgetting. What happened in the goal of 1882 wasn't a finding, it was a recognition. Two people who'd carried the same wound from opposite ends looked up at last and knew, this is the one. This was always the one. Right here, right beside me, all along. That's the thing I most want you to carry home from this. The best of it isn't off over the mountains where the silver's supposed to be. It's not the one the whole town's already looking at. So often it's the quiet soul right beside you, the one you were taught to overlook, the one you keep being kind to in the dark. Don't wait. Don't spend 13 years on opposite banks of the same river. Look up. Look right beside you.